Hey Therman, how you doing today?
I am wonderful. What's going on?
Not so much, but I've got an interesting question for you.
What's going on? What's the deal?
So we always talk on Business Boost, Microsoft 365 Business Boost, about all the wonderful things you could do with Microsoft 365, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I thought that we could have an interesting conversation today about all the things that we personally do that we don't do in Microsoft 365.
I like it.
Do do
I
we
love
do
it.
we
Actually.
do we really drink the Kool-Aid or not? I guess is the question. So,
I drink.
uh,
Listen, I drink the Kool-Aid. I just dabble in some other things every now and then. I
you, you,
only
you you
only
just have some other beverages that you choose on occasion
exactly right,
when
right,
when
right.
when
You know
when
what I
when
mean?
the mood takes you. So,
Exactly.
do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first in revealing our dark little secrets of
Yeah, yeah.
non-Microsoft 365 apps?
I could go first, and here, the reason I want to go first because I want to caveat my situation here.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about three different ones, but two of them come as a result of me not, how do I put this? Not having any faith in Microsoft at one point. So these things
So the
go.
truth comes out. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah,
2 minutes into the truth comes out.
yeah. But I mean, if you've anybody that's worked with me for a really long time, or seen how I work, even outside of the professional environment, they know that there was a time. I mean, I still criticize Microsoft today, but I used to be overly critical of Microsoft back in the days because
Yeah.
I was just like, what are they doing? Like, why are they making this decision? You know what I'm saying? With certain applications, it used to be a time when the applications that they would come out with, they would have these, a lot of applications have bugs. It's fine.
Yeah.
But they would have these bugs that were like, why are you accepting this as like a bug while publishing these new features? It's like, fix this. You know what I'm saying? And then when I would see other applications on the market that the workplace would not, they're not going to adapt those. So it was like, wow, this is way better than Microsoft. And they don't even get a chance because Microsoft has their market share.
Hmm.
And it was really
Hmm.
frustrating. You know what I mean? But I'm saying that to say a couple of mine that I'm going to mention here today predates, my knee deep love for Microsoft now because
Okay.
they've gotten way better.
Okay.
So
You've dug yourself out the hole, so we can we can get on with your list.
yeah. So the first one I want to put out there is Google Keep.
Okay.
Now, this one came a while ago when I got an Android tablet, I believe. I bought an Android tablet and and Google Keep was on there, and I'm like, what is Google Keep? Like, what is the point of this? I look up Google Keep. I mean, I open it, I start to use it. I'm like, oh, it's a note taking app. But the thing that I loved about it was that it was so easy. It was just open it up, fly my fingers across the screen real quick, save a note, and I'm good. And then on top of that, I was able to uh, search. When I go back and search my notes, quick, fast. All I got to do is start typing a few letters, and it filters my notes really quickly to get me back every note that pertains to that search. Then they started including hashtags, and the hashtags allow you to categorize all your notes, like Twitter,
Hmm.
like how Twitter revolutionized hashtags to me anyway. And then you could color code your notes. You could share your notes with other people. So I'm like sharing notes with my family, doing like shopping lists and all this other stuff. But it was just so easy and so fast, and it's a search. That's what really got me. But at the time, Microsoft that I didn't know about did not have a good competing note app for Keep, or at least I didn't know about it because again, it was just placed on my tablet and then I just used it. And from there, I fell in love. I got notes from a long time ago that I could, again, quickly search and I could find them easily. So Google Keep is great. Now, one of the first apps from Microsoft that really made me go, it really made me change my position was OneNote. I remember when I used to use OneNote and I used to recommend it to other customers. I'd be like, hey, I tell them the whole spiel about why OneNote is good, but then I'd also say, and this is kind of like different than your typical Microsoft app. It looks different. It works really well. It's extremely dependable. It's very flexible. It has a nice UI. It was a whole thing. This was one of Microsoft's first apps that I actually fell in love with. So it's crazy that I didn't come across and fall in love with OneNote until after Google Keep was in my life. So as of this moment, I still use Google Keep and OneNote, and I have a distinct way that I use them. But my first entry into today's discussion is Google Keep.
Interesting. So OneNote has been around longer than Google Keep, I believe.
It has, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember when Google Keep came out, I think it was around the time that everyone was getting excited about, it must have been at the time, Windows 7 tablets. Maybe it was even prior to Windows 7 at that time. Maybe it was still Windows XP, but there was a new craze of, having a pen and writing on screen. And I did a lot of stuff back then looking at OneNote as a repository for handwritten notes. While at the same time, I think my first experience of Google Keep was I got the Nexus 7 tablet, which was the one of the first Google tablet devices, I think, when Google made good tablets, and that was cool.
That's the one I got.
But yeah, so there was a lot of that was kind of came out to rave reviews, and I think Google Keep came out around the same time. But I never became a long-term user of Google Keep. I didn't even realize it was still around, to be honest. And I use OneNote every day, and obviously the push for Microsoft now is we now have Loop within Microsoft 365 as well, which offers a similar functionality to Keep as well, I think. So you've got two options over in the Microsoft 365 side.
Right. But getting it on mobile and having it be that easy and that fast, that was the thing, because I've pulled up Loop on mobile and it leaves something to be desired. It's just Google Keep got right to the action. You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing too. We know how it is with these Microsoft apps. You got to sign in, you got to do your thing. It could be a whole thing if you sign into multiple accounts on your phone. It's a thing. But your Google account, well, at least I don't have multiple Google accounts on my phone.
Yeah,
I have one Google account. Maybe I might have multiple emails, but that's the only place it affects it is inside of the inbox. But at the time, bringing up Google Keep and using it, that was another thing too. I remember thinking, damn, Google was on a nice little run of making these apps that were just good. And yeah, Google Keep, yeah, that definitely my my thing there. So all right, now do you want me to give you my remaining ones, or do you want to do a little what's that, tennis here? Go back.
I could do one of mine, I guess, if you like.
Right, let's see it. What you got?
Let me bring up one here that I use. So let's take a look at this. So one that I use is Calendly, and I actually use the standard subscription of Calendly versus bookings for some of my bookings, and I actually decided to transition from bookings to Calendly. So I made the decision to switch over. And why did I do this? I can hear everyone shouting, particularly because one of my most popular videos on YouTube is how to get started with Microsoft Bookings. Well, there was one simple reason, and that is that I had a need to take a payment from a client when they made a booking, because I decided to start rolling out coaching sessions where someone could block off 30 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes. And just
Mm-hmm.
a little plug, if that's of interest to you, if you'd like some digital transformation coaching, I offer this as an option for people who don't necessarily want to commission a whole project. They might just need some help, some pointers with some stuff. So it's an easy way to get started if you want to do that. But Bookings doesn't give you the option to take a payment at the time of making the booking. We do have the option in Teams now. I think it's still there, of you can take a payment in Teams. I've got a video out about that as well when that first came out, but it seemed a bit of a strange solution to me versus actually taking a payment up front, because in general, by the time you've joined the Teams meeting, if someone decides they're not going to put their credit card information in at that point, you've already wasted the time, right? So you want to know that you've got the payment ahead of time. So Calendly allows you to do this with just a $10 a month standard subscription. You can connect it to either a Stripe account or a PayPal account, and it makes it really easy to take a payment. That was the sole reason that I decided to move over to using Calendly for those particular types of bookings versus Bookings. I still do recommend Bookings if you need it. If you need general meeting booking facility, I think it's the best option if you've got Microsoft 365. But in that specific use case of I need to take a credit card payment up front, Bookings is not your ideal solution. It doesn't offer that. So Calendly is an easy plug-in for that.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I set up my bookings, and I don't use it. People still use my Calendly, but I would prefer to use bookings. Literally, the only reason I have not fully switched over to bookings is because I was just being lazy. You know what I mean? Or I should say, it takes some time, and I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? If I sat down and took the time to do it, I would. The problem is that I don't rely heavily on people to book something with me. I was actually trying my hardest to get away from that because I'm like, it get kind of you mentioned something on LinkedIn earlier in the week about, people seeing you on YouTube and thinking, it's a little bit easier now to just get in contact with you and kind of use your time for free. So that was the thing with Calendly or bookings, is that, it was becoming a thing where people would just jump on my calendar because I just had it sitting out there, and now we have a meeting. And it's like, that's cool, but that's not the best use of my time. If me and you have that discussion and I know you're potentially a client, then that is a great use of my time. But just, can I pick your brain, or, can we chat for this amount of minutes? I try to get away from that and pull those links off of my, my presence online. But a couple people still found me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, and you have to flag it, Like, I have these two different options, and basically my line is this. If someone has a project that they want to talk about, if they want to adopt Copilot, if they within their organization, if they want some training within their organization, if they want like ongoing advisory services, if they want a meeting, and it's going to be a free meeting up front to talk about that and to give me some information so I can put a bid together, they can understand my pricing and so on and so forth. That's always going to be free. But just taking 30 minutes of my time so that you can get your questions answered, like I have these 3 questions, and I want you to answer them, that isn't free. And so that's why I implemented this 2-path option of, if you've just got some questions and you want to talk to me about, your position, you want to get straight into the detail immediately, then we can do that, but that's going to be paid. And that's what I use Calendly for. It doesn't always work, but I find giving that option and putting that barrier of a price on it, so that it's clear, it means that the right people go the right way a lot of the time. And I find that a lot more helpful versus before I did that, often feeling as if I was working for free in meetings
Right.
where I shouldn't have been.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. As a growing business, it's always a thing you have to consider. Got to always weigh this thing. But it's a process and it's a
Yeah.
little detailed. Okay. I got my second one. I'm gonna jump in
Okay,
here
what's your
with.
second one?
I'm going mobile again.
Okay.
There's a pattern here, and this
Okay.
is also falling under the same. Matter of fact, this is literally the same thing that happened with Keep. Is the same thing that happened with this. My next app is Dropbox. Now, I tell people all the time when they are comparing SharePoint to something like Dropbox or something like Google Drive, I'm like, you're comparing the wrong thing. There is one component in SharePoint that allows you to do document management. That is what Dropbox specifically does, is
Mm,
document management. You get
mm,
folders, you get to put your documents in there, you name your folders, you share them, you structure them how you want, all that other type of stuff. Dropbox came across my radar the same way Keep did. It was some app that was on my phone, and I'm like, yo, what is this? So I check it out, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool solution. So that immediately became my storage for pictures. So I'm like, I forgot how long ago it was, but I can look inside of my Dropbox and see how old my pictures are. Once I discovered Dropbox, I was like, wait a minute, this is it. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the thing where if I lose my phone, I'm still fine because uh, when I get my new phone, I sign in the Dropbox and bring up all my pictures, which is what I do. Every time I get a new phone, lose a phone for whatever reason, break a phone, I don't know. Every time I get a new phone, I make sure I install Dropbox and then I get all my pictures. I pay for Dropbox even. I don't pay for
mm,
Keep, but I pay for Dropbox because of the space. And my whole family uses it. So anytime we're on vacation and I'm taking pictures, I'm uploading pictures into the family vacation or into the vacation to the folder specific to that vacation. And anybody else can do it. But I do it for everything. It's not just
mm,
vacations.
mm,
It's
mm.
graduation, or it's random everyday things are happening, or our dog is taking pictures, or whatever the event is. I could go to Dropbox right now and pull up that event super quick and get to anything. All you got to do is tell me what it is. Oh, it was my friends Ed and Mel. They had their wedding back in 20 whatever. I just know that I would have named that Ed and Mel. I go scroll through it real quick and I find it, pull it up. I could share the pictures. I could do whatever. It's a great place to look at memories. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
mm,
Where like the way we currently do it or used to do it is I would go to, let's say if I go to my mother's house or an aunt's house or whatever, they would bust out the big photo, what is that?
The photo album.
The binder, the big album, you know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
that's how we would look at old albums or old pictures. Now, I just in a matter of
You're just
seconds go to
scrolling.
Dropbox, yeah, exactly, and pull them up.
Yeah.
Now, again, that predates something I would have did with Microsoft because very easily I could use OneDrive to do that. But
Mm.
um, yeah, Dropbox beat them to it, and it's something that I can integrate with SharePoint. So it's not like I have to leave Dropbox in order to keep using it. I could easily integrate it with SharePoint and just continue living life that way. So
Mm,
yeah, my next
mm,
one is Dropbox. I love it.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, and Microsoft, this is something, particularly the example of photos. This is something that we're seeing development on the OneDrive side as well, particularly personal OneDrive, where we're
Mhm.
getting a lot more facilities for photos. We now have the ability from the OneDrive app on certainly on iOS. I believe you can on Android as well to automatically upload photos that you take to OneDrive as well. So you've got that
Mhm.
facility there. So I think we're seeing a lot more of this, and we've even seen with some of the discussion around consumer Copilot, some of the demos that we've seen around that, and the OneDrive updates that we've seen recently around how to deal with photos and deal with them with AI
Mm.
in OneDrive. So I think this is something that Microsoft is getting getting better at. Do you recommend Dropbox for anything that's more kind of business file related? Do you have use cases there where
No.
Dropbox is, because I do see occasionally organizations that are very heavily involved in Dropbox and have a lot
Yeah,
of content there. So certainly it's out there, but if you're using
it is.
Microsoft 365, you do have the ability to plug Dropbox into it. But
Right.
I think there are probably less and less reasons that you would want to do that. And
Right.
obviously, if you do that in your organization and you have reasons why you would want to do that, then please do leave us a comment so that we understand that. But I see a lot of people that are transitioning files, if they have had them in Dropbox, back over to SharePoint, particularly if they're organizations that are interested in AI and Copilot for Microsoft 365.
Yeah, look, if you want to use Dropbox as the file solution for your growing business or your big business, I mean, look, go ahead. You know what I mean? But to answer your question, if I would recommend that, if you're paying for the 365 suite, I'm not going to recommend you do that. I'm going to tell you to use the file solutions that you have inside of 365, mainly SharePoint. If these are files that you and your company need to access together, you need to share, you need to collaborate on SharePoint. If
Yep.
you have individual files that you're using but they do pertain to the business, then go OneDrive. But
Yep.
I will not recommend that you do business on Dropbox. Not because you can't. I just think there's a way more, robust. I struggle to find a different word, but you're gonna get way more bang for your buck if you go 365 with your
Well,
document.
I mean, it's frankly just more economical because if you're paying for Microsoft 365 and all of your storage in Microsoft 365 is empty because you're paying for storage somewhere else, then you are essentially paying for storage twice because some of that fee that you're paying for your Microsoft 365 license is paying for the terabyte of storage that you get per user in Microsoft 365. So I think it's important to remember that. Now, whether it makes good sense to spend the money on moving stuff, it does cost money to move stuff. That's down to you, but I think that's important to remember. So my
Yeah.
next one, obviously, we have Microsoft Designer in Microsoft 365. But the software that I use for photos and design stuff is actually Affinity Photo and Affinity Designer. And this is a software that more kind of stacks up against Photoshop and Adobe's suite. But the
Okay.
big selling point for this is you just buy it once and then you've got it. You don't have a monthly recurring fee. I think I paid about $80 recently to upgrade from the version 1 to the version 2 of this. And that gives me the ability to install these apps on Windows, Mac, iPad, as much as I want. And for my purposes, it works really well. It's what I'm used to using. It's kind of like you with Google Keep. I've got onto this, and Microsoft Designer keeps getting better. But this is a product that I've got used to using and gives me all the capabilities that I need. So I've continued to use it. And I think the main selling point for a product like this is Adobe. You can be spending thousands of dollars per year on having licenses for that, but this is a product that you buy once and you just keep using. So that was the reason that I chose this initially versus going the Adobe route, and that was long before Microsoft Designer ever existed.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, after you've played with Designer and you've used this tool, what's your take on which one you think is doing a better job?
I think eventually Designer will get there. I mean, one of the things that I use Affinity Photo for a lot is thumbnails for YouTube. And
Okay.
so a lot of that is taking a picture of me, cutting out the background of it, and then pasting that into whatever that thumbnail is. And Designer now has automated AI-based removal of the background, which Affinity doesn't. but I found it in trying it out to be a bit patchy. And
Yep.
so it's actually quicker for me to manually do that. I say manually, it's actually a very quick process to do that in Affinity versus doing it with Designer. But I imagine over time features like that are just going to get better and better. And I may go back and look at this one day and say, well, this is actually good enough for what I need to do, and it's going to be quicker to do it in Designer. So I always think there's a benefit to, going back and looking at these things. I don't necessarily think you need to be every time you do a job comparing the two.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sense, and I often recommend this to people I work with, is, if you haven't looked at the alternative in Microsoft 365 in the last 6 months or a year, and there are new features that have come out there, go and take a look. Go
Mm-hmm.
and spend 10 minutes just clicking around with it and seeing what it does now, because very often you'll be impressed to find that one thing that you went out and bought a different service for is now in the Microsoft product. So just because it didn't do it once, don't necessarily put it behind you and imagine it's never going to do it, because these apps are
Right.
updated all the time.
Yep. Agreed. Are you a Canva user?
I'm not, no. And I'm
Okay.
glad, because I would be crying over my credit card bill right now if I was a Canva user.
Yeah. I'm about to drop them or go
Yeah,
back to a free plan if they got one.
because they just tripled their pricing, right?
Yeah. I don't know exactly what the number is because my number didn't go up that high, but I remember looking at it and thinking like, wait, was that the price I was paid? But it was so that other people who I collaborate with, they know how to do this design stuff. So and they use Canva, and I'm like, all right, go ahead and use Canva. But now I don't work with them anymore. It's time for me to leave Canva because it's not like I'm gonna be sitting around there knee deep in Canva. I just like you, I need some YouTube thumbnails. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I can figure that out.
And
So
I think somewhere I saw that these guys, Affinity, had just been bought, and I think they got bought by Canva.
really,
So, but at the time, I believe it was Canva, but whoever bought them said they weren't going to make a change to the business model. They were going to continue having a paid, you can buy it and you can continue using it version of this.
yeah,
What we used to define as perpetual licensing, but that seems to have changed a little bit. If you look at what's going on with AT&T and Broadcom, that seems to be in dispute as to what perpetual licensing means. But for $80 or something like that, it's a pretty good deal in my opinion.
yeah. It's always important to look at the one-time payment versus the recurrent,
Yeah,
and how
and
much you use the
we
thing.
probably should have got this video sponsored in some way, because we're advertising so many different products today. But
That is a very good point.
it isn't sponsored. These are just our opinions.
Yeah. All right, so my last one is actually in a different category of how I discovered it in a different way. So it doesn't predate my love for Microsoft. It is an active choice that I made to leave what I was doing on Microsoft to go use this tool. So I put out a bunch of videos on YouTube, videos on social media, whatever, right? And those videos are showing my screen. Now, I think it's important that when I'm showing my screen that I have the ability to zoom in on certain things, because for the person who's consuming that video, it's a little bit difficult to see what I'm talking about if you're not used to the software. So if I watch somebody doing some SharePoint stuff, my eyes are tracking where it needs to go. I don't have to zoom in. I know what they're clicking on because I know SharePoint. But somebody else who doesn't really know SharePoint like that, that's going to be a little bit frustrating for them. So I like to zoom in. Now, I used to record my videos in Microsoft Stream and then edit them in Clipchamp. What I've
Okay.
now done is record and edit in a totally different software. This is called Tella, Tella. And so I have a mastermind that I attend weekly, right? And inside of my mastermind, I was like, yeah, I'm recording these videos and I'm getting much better with Clipchamp. I'm like becoming a Clipchamp guy. And the only thing I don't like is that I can't zoom in. And I have to like come up with this process where it's like it's a super quick zoom in. And it's it's like a transition is really choppy. It goes from being large on the screen to like super close, and then you come back out to another large picture. That's fine. It got the job done. But one of the things I didn't like about that was it wasn't smooth, and you couldn't tell what part of the page I was actually zooming in on. So I could have probably been zooming in on the upper right hand corner of the page, but you had to kind of like piece that together real quick as you're watching the video. You have to figure that out. So somebody in my mastermind, they go, hey, you probably would like Tella TV because it just has a zooming feature and it works really well. It's super easy. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll give it a shot. 7-day trial. And lo and behold, I fell in love with it. The thing that I didn't like was the learning curve. But I'm not a video editing guy. This is just something that I have to do because of my work. But now it's getting better. They have an active forum. The owner is very active, puts out a lot of videos inside of the forum, and now I'm all in. The only issue is that there's some things that it can't do right now that I have to finish my video in Tella, then take it back to Clipchamp and do it in there. But I haven't even been doing that. I haven't been wanting to do that because I'm like, look, I'm not a video guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to be spending my time doing all that. I'm trying to incorporate my son into my business to let him do all of this stuff. But right now, I just use Tella. I get the zoom in feature. I get these cool layouts that I get to transition all through the video. It's a really cool tool. I like it a lot. And it never lags when I'm recording, which is something I've run into with Stream. And I don't know if that's my situation with my computer or if that's a Stream thing. So right now, it got to be a Stream thing because it never happens with Tella. So I've fallen in love with Tella. I publish all of my videos with that. It's a great tool. But hopefully, it'll catch up with what Microsoft is doing. And hopefully Microsoft continues to publish more updates to Stream, to your point. Because I'll go right back to Stream as soon as they get this feature.
Yeah, I mean, Clipchamp is one of those things that really is an amazing addition to Microsoft 365.
Amazing. And if you have, I completely agree.
If you have basic needs with video editing, and I say basic, but actually what's going on with it is getting greater and greater all the time. I personally, I use OBS for recording, and I use DaVinci Resolve for editing. And I think that I could probably do the vast majority of what I do in DaVinci in Clipchamp. But, I've invested quite a lot of time in becoming efficient in using DaVinci Resolve. And so one of the things that I consider in that is, well, I have Clipchamp, I have access to it, but do I have the time right now to devote to changing my workflow? And so one of the reasons I continue to use DaVinci is just from the point of view of, DaVinci is free. I don't use the paid version of DaVinci. I use the free version of DaVinci, which is fine for my needs. And do I have the capacity to be changing around the way that I'm doing things? And the answer to that right now is no. And I think this is one of the things you do have to consider when, I'm sure you do, when we advise businesses of wanting to change this and wanting to change that and wanting to change something else, is, there's the effort of the technology change, but there's also the effort of the people change around doing that. And often the people change is a far longer and more convoluted process than changing the technology. Like sometimes it's very easy to turn these things on. So we're not immune to that. I know you like to try things out. I like to try things out, but there are some things where we kind of just keep in our lane because it's not something that the change is necessarily that important to improving our processes. And the cost of that change in terms of our time and effort is just going to be too great for the benefit that it's going to deliver back to us.
Yeah, everything you just said, completely agree. But I will say, I love Clipchamp. I did not want to get in bed with it because I'm like, look, I'm not a video guy and I wanted to pay other people to do it. But eventually I had to just be like, just bite the bullet, learn how to use the software and go with it. And right now, I'm really good at Clipchamp. I can use Clipchamp. I went to Tella for that one thing, which was the ability to do a smooth scroll zoom. I needed that. Anybody else, I would highly advise you to learn Clipchamp because you can get most of what you need done in Clipchamp. It's pretty good.
Yep. Yeah, if
and
you're starting
better.
out, use Clipchamp. Start with
Yeah,
Clipchamp. It's
absolutely.
there. Use it. So my last one, Thurman, is QuickBooks. Um, and again, this is something I don't know what you use for accounting in your business, but
QuickBooks.
I QuickBooks, yeah. So I use this for connecting my bank accounts, so I know how much I have in the bank, and for issuing invoices to people.
Mm-hmm.
And could I do this in Microsoft? Yeah, sure. I could use something like Business Central, but the amount of effort in getting that set up, or one of the dynamic solutions, the amount of effort in getting that set up, getting it connected, getting it issuing invoices, getting it connected to something like Stripe in order to take payments, because even something like Business Central, which is the kind of small and medium business version of Dynamics finance package, you've got the ability to issue invoices out of there, doesn't connect automatically in the same way that QuickBooks does to some kind of payment facility. So if
Right.
you want an easy way just to issue an invoice to someone, something like QuickBooks is a good investment, even though it is relatively expensive versus Microsoft 365. I mean, I think I spend as much money issuing a handful of invoices each month out of QuickBooks as I do on all the everything that I do in Microsoft 365 on a business premium license.
Mm.
It's still worthwhile because the amount of complication in doing this on the Microsoft side would be far greater than the benefit that I would see in my organization. But that said, if you're an organization where it works with the scale that is designed for something like Business Central or Dynamics 365 F&O, then it makes sense to deploy a solution like that. It just doesn't make sense for the scale of business that I'm at.
Right. Yeah, and my accountant is a QuickBooks person, and it just made it easy to put everything in QuickBooks, and I'm just like, let's do it. That's fine with me. You know what I mean? If I didn't have an accountant, I would probably not use QuickBooks. I would find some way to just keep it very, very simple. But QuickBooks keeps it simple for me and keeps it simple for my accountant, and everybody's happy. So
Hmm.
I same thing. I'm not gonna bring my invoicing and money management situation into 365. It per project. I have a SharePoint list that tracks what I'm doing,
Hmm.
and then I take that and put it in QuickBooks to invoice,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I could probably automate it, but again, not a heavy lift, so no big deal.
Yeah.
I am I'm a QuickBooks guy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot
For the
of
time
smaller businesses that use QuickBooks, even much bigger businesses than mine use QuickBooks, and I will
Absolutely.
help clients with QuickBooks. I got certified as a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, so I have a bit of knowledge around QuickBooks as well to help those clients, and I see nothing. Nothing wrong with it as a package versus there's other bigger tools out there that you can use, but it's not always about using the biggest and most capable tool. Sometimes you just want something that works.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nick,
So
this was great. To your point, we definitely gave a lot of love to a lot of these apps, but we're still Microsoft guys. Um, Now, listen, Nick, before we get out of here, where
yep.
can people find you? What you got going on? What you got coming up?
So head over to LinkedIn, take a look there at what I put out. I try to post regularly, but certainly don't manage it every day. Last week was a bit of an interesting week for me on YouTube. It was the culmination of my second year on YouTube. So do check out, I did a live stream Q&A on Friday. If you haven't seen that yet, go and take a look. And let me know whether you'd like to see more things like that in the future. Because if you do, then I might keep doing them. If not, then I'll stop. But let me know.
All right, good deal. I gotta find out my YouTube birthday. I gotta go check my stats
Yeah,
because I don't remember.
go find out your YouTube birthday, and then we can celebrate it together. What have you got going on?
Listen, I am honing in on my public sector professionals. Always, you know what I mean? Like this is a thing that I've been doing for a really long time. Is serving those in the public sector. So I have like a program coming out here soon. But again, the best way for you to find me or get in contact or see what's going on is just follow me on LinkedIn. That is the best place you can find me and get introduced to what I got going on and how I can help you. And particularly if you're in the public sector. I've been helping you for years. I understand your problems. I want to continue to help you. So, reach out on LinkedIn.
Cool. Well, it's been a good chat. I think everyone will probably be interested to see where we do and we don't drink the Microsoft Kool-Aid. So hopefully this has been useful to everyone. And until the next episode, Therman, take care, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. You do the same.
Bye.